Here comes Edward Bear down the stairs. Bump, bump, bump. On the back of his head. It is, as far as he knows, the only way. But sometimes he thinks, there must be a better way. If only I could stop bumping for a minute and think of it. There is increasing pressure in science to win grants and publish results, leaving little room for failed experiments. But some of our greatest revelations are born out of failures. From flying aeroplanes to the discovery of penicillin. Around the world, science is predominantly shared through scientific articles. A good idea, a finding, or a conversation may not count for anything if it is not published. And this is where we're excluding people. Studies show that we are more likely to publish a successful, positive result than a failure. There may also be bias, not only in what we publish, but in who gets to publish it. Women are better represented on Twitter than they are in scientific papers. Recent research has shown that male authors will continue to outnumber female authors in STEM subjects until the end of this century. And that's before we even get onto the economics of being able to resource high-quality research and access publications from for-profit companies. The rabbits and the owls of Winnie the Pooh's 100-Acre Wood shouldn't be the only ones sharing their ideas. We need Tiggers, resourceful, ambitious, full of enthusiasm, and ready to bounce ideas out into the real world. And protagonists like Pooh, who advocate doing things differently. The cautious ERs in the room might be thinking, I'm a bit reluctant about this, pessimistic perhaps. Thinking, what about peer review? This takes time. Absolutely. We cannot and should not compromise quality for ease of access. We need to make sure what we're sharing and reading is credible, authentic, and reliable. But the issue we have is one of inclusion. Failed science isn't a failure, but biased science is. We need to reach a much larger audience with a greater diversity of stories. It isn't just about gender and wealth. If we cannot access the latest research, we will continue to fail where we could have learned from our mistakes. Earlier this year at TEDx Seattle, Jennifer Hansen talked about the catastrophic impact this can have. Using the Ebola outbreak as an example, she talked to the audience about research warning of a possible outbreak that had been published in European journals 30 years earlier. We need to think again about how we measure the impact of our research. We need to use a format that better suits its purpose. It might be a scientific article, but it could also be a video or an interactive website. I recently read an article in Nature's Careers column by a researcher who looks at ant behaviour. And for each one of his scientific articles, he recorded a 4-minute video explaining his research to his mum. He didn't dumb down his work, he cross-referenced it, and he timed the release to coincide with his journal articles. One of those articles, published in an open access journal, received 12,000 views since its release in 2015. The corresponding video received more than 62,000 views. We need to include findings from little science and enthusiastic amateurs, provided there is transparency in methodology and credentials, so we can assess the quality of the work. There's a growing interest in citizen science, networks of connected, regular people who can go out and collect and record data, meaning that researchers have access to a much bigger pool of data than they would ordinarily be able to afford and carry out by themselves. But with more data and more findings, surely there'll be more publications. And how is traditional publishing going to keep up with that? There are 2.5 million journal articles published every year. In contrast, 2.5 million tweets are published every 5 minutes. What if we could have the perks of social media with the rigour of traditional publishing? My idea is to bring together academics and amateurs with experts in computer science, big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, to build an online platform that accelerates knowledge sharing and collaboration. It would allow us to speed up our search for new research, establish global connections, validate results in real time, identify gaps in our knowledge, and test the credibility and how they align with other results and spot trends in amateur records. What we're lacking in our current system is the incentive to create it and to use it worldwide. A report to President Truman in 1945 said, "Science should be brought to centre stage, for in it lies much of our hope for the future." I believe our greatest hope is to include the minds of the many, not the few. Let's stop bumping our heads. It's time we reported science of the people, by the people, for the people. Thank you.